let's roll it out. Let's see what we got.
Are we on, Bree? Okay. We will convene the meeting. I'm very sorry. It was my fault for our late start today. And I guess we're in progress now. So we have a quorum for the meeting tonight. We have some business to cover. We have first simply the adoption of the minutes from last meeting. Did everyone receive those and get a chance to look at them? So if we can have a motion to adopt the June minutes.
I move to adopt the June meeting minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we'll adopt last month's minutes, and I'm now trying to pull up this month's agenda. Okay. So we have an opportunity for subcommittee updates. Again, I don't know if there are specific updates. Mel, who is our funding subcommittee chair, I know can't make it. Marcel, I believe you're now governance.
Yep.
And then we have visioning. So to the extent there's anything to share from those subcommittees, we can discuss now.
I think I'm taking the lead on the visioning. I will say not a lot of updates from when we last met, although I do feel it still remains an urgent need to kind of address sort of what we see as the function of this body and how we want to interact with the ombuds. Obviously, I think when it'd be nice to have some sense of that when the interim ombuds is placed, just so we have some ground rules or some expectations. Obviously, we can't enforce them, but some expectations on our side how that interaction might go. So I mean, not a great month for me given the amount of work I have, but I will commit to pushing that forward before we meet again.
Thank you, Ben. Marcel, anything?
Yeah, so I'll update. So right now, as it stands, the only two people that have been active on governance has been Mel and myself. Obviously, being the way it's been the last month, we've had a short phone conversation in terms of looking at the ombuds, the prior job description, and looking at making sure that the college requirement, it's not a must. It can be an addition, but it's not a must, as well as the fact that we are hoping for strong show out from people who are formerly incarcerated, because I think that would be the hope. However, I think, Mel brought up an interesting thought process in terms of as we're looking at the new applications, and I think it's something that we need to consider, making sure that the alignment of, as applicants are coming in, looking at the overall office as well as the, not just the applicants, the ombuds coming in, only because that is one role with many responsibilities. So I think it's looking, at that long-term plan and what that looks like broken down is something I think we need to consider as we go forward doing this second time around. So that is where we are with that right now.
Great. Yeah, I agree with those sort of additional concerns or thoughts in connection with governance. It sort of leads us into the interim ombuds. I don't have an update on that. I have requested updates from both the governor's office and the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. I don't have anything. Obviously, there has not been announced and interim ombuds. I don't know, Marisol or anyone else, if you've heard updates of this. I requested today and last week and just haven't heard anything.
So the only thing I know of is that there were two candidates that they had interviewed, a male and a female. I know that there has, this was something that was only given to me secondhand, kind of coming in. This is not something that was said to me directly by anybody from the Black and Hispanic Caucus or from, governor's office or anywhere else. However, I'm not sure if, I know Barbara Fair, who is in the Zoom, has had prior communications and has been a part of that process at some point. So I'm not sure if she may know more than we do, obviously. But I know there have been 2 applicants. I don't know if there were more, but that as far as what I've gotten, I think that was as of like a week and a half ago.
Okay. Well, great. I mean, maybe we'll hear from Barbara or anyone else during the public comment. The interim was meant to be in place, I think July 1st, going forward. So we should just continue to press those other parties on the appointment of an interim ombuds. But as we've discussed, I think, nothing that we're doing requires any, we don't need to wait for an interim. We can proceed immediately with our own process for appointing a permanent ombuds. And that's, I think, where we want to spend most of our time this evening. So I will say, this is entirely on me. I think I had intended to circulate, a proposed revision to the job description earlier. I did so today. I don't know if anyone has had a chance to review it. We could put it up on the screen and discuss it. Essentially, I sent around some, proposed revisions to the previously approved job description. The main change, as Marisol kind of previewed, was just cutting out the portion that may have caused some confusion about whether there's a requirement of a bachelor's degree. And then there's a few, in my view, more minor tweaks here and there. So I guess I just, did everyone get to see it, or would it be worth throwing it up on the screen?
Tag, just so I know, if we all review it today, like one potential action is that we agree, given our quorum, to actually move forward with posting it, correct?
Right.
Okay. I would love to, I will admit, I have not had a chance to look at it in depth. It'd be great to put it on the screen. Is that one action that we want to take today? It'd be great to look at it.
I'd love to have sort of approval of the, of our description. Now, as you guys might recall from the last cycle, what actually gets posted by a DAS or whomever is a little bit different, but it is based on our own description. So now I'm on the spot about sharing. Let's see here, 1 second.
I've given you permission, but I also have the docs pulled up. Which one do you want to see?
Oh, great. Thank you, Bree. It should say like job description, but with PD.
I have job opening, job spec, or outreach summary.
Is one of them a Word document?
Oh,
yeah,
yep. Gotcha.
the last
Gotcha.
I-722.
Yeah, that one.
All right, let me share that.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can.
I'm going to make it bigger.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so it's in track changes, so we can scroll down. I assume the first one there is a very minor thing. I guess I'm not sure if we can see the actual edits.
I can't, I have it open on my screen on my computer.
So
This looks like if you go to review, you might be able to. This is like a simple, or
Yeah, view.
this is like a not no in
we can go to
review.
review and show changes.
Yeah,
maybe?
exactly. Not simple markup. It'll be like all markup.
All
Yeah, yeah.
markup,
And that'll
thank
show
you.
like yeah.
Yeah, all right. So the first change there is just it's probably not necessary, but just kind of noting that there is sort of an expectation of trying to raise funds outside of whatever's appropriated as well.
Can we? And so can we make proposals for wording changes here?
Yeah, yeah.
So private grants make it sound like foundations, which might be true, but also like that doesn't feel like that encompasses like BJA type Department of Justice grants. I would just change it to external
Grant.
external
Yeah,
grants
Grants.
or grants or external grants instead of private grants.
Great. Thank you, Bree. It looks like there might have been a change above that we skipped over.
taking all possible actions.
Right. Yeah,
I think it was
I
put
don't-
on investigations.
kind of six of one, half a dozen of the other. There is a spot later on where we try to make clear the statutory sort of expectation that the ombuds can and will take formal legal action if other actions are ineffective, which comes straight from the statute, and I did think was maybe just worth highlighting so that there's not confusion about that point, because in the last when the governor's office was interviewing our top three finalists, I think there was some discussion and concern about litigation. And, I had said in my own conversations with the governor's office that, the statute itself contemplates litigation. And so, that's a feature of this position and not something that, should be held against, for example, an attorney, right? So in the last round, as you know, there were two lawyers, and at least as was conveyed to me, there was some concern about those lawyers being more willing to bring affirmative litigation against the Department of Corrections than a non-lawyer. So again,
But can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This reminds me of, the letter from Amos. He brings up an interesting question in terms of litigation or any type of legal action. Would that not push this office into the realm of having to have a bigger budget because of, dealing with any type of litigation or legal action from an outside group or initiating any type of legal action?
I think the office needs a bigger budget.
Oh, no, I don't
I think
disagree.
we all
But he was
agree on
talking
that.
he was talking about it with, if we're talking about some type of litigation, like having that type of independent, like what would that look like? I think that would, encompass a far larger, more than even $10 million, because if they are initiating litigation matters and it goes into, we see what that looks like sometimes. So I think, like looking at that specific legal and litigation and any aspect to that, I think is something we've got to be careful of. And especially giving, opening up the office or opening up the individual and those who are, inside, not getting hit with any type of negative ramification as a result of that, because we know how it goes with litigation. It goes south real fast.
Yeah, I don't see an issue. I would agree that if it was an office that was going to be frequently bringing cases, you would need some lawyers, and lawyers are expensive to have on staff, or you would need a budget to hire outside counsel, which is even more expensive. To me, there's not a requirement about bringing litigation. It's simply a permissible means of sort of enforcing the mandate of the office in terms of bringing about reform for impacted persons. And the statute does say it can only be done. You can only bring formal legal action if other avenues have failed.
Okay.
So I think it would require more money, but I think it's not. It's baked into the statutory remit of the office, and so for purposes of the job description, it's just noting that that is a potential responsibility of the office rather than it's something that is immediately needed. But I would agree that if once we have an ombuds in place and we're advising that person, we may be, as the advisory committee may be saying, hey, let's kind of hold off on affirmative litigation unless and until we're in a position to actually prosecute it effectively, and maybe we don't have the budget to do that immediately. But to me, in terms of describing the position, I think it is kind of important to know that that's something that this office can, and in certain circumstances, must do if other actions have failed. In any event, that is, we'll get back to that because it'll, we're
Yeah.
previewing a change below.
I do want to acknowledge we lost Daryl, so we're no longer. But we started the meeting with a quorum, so I think we should just keep moving.
I think we can keep moving, and yes, we'll have to hope he can come back to actually approve this. Yes, thank you, Ben. All right, so we scroll down. This is all the same. Again, if we don't have to, it's great if we speed through it, but if by looking.
Yeah, I don't think we need to read it. I would say we don't need to read it all.
I agree as well, but all I'm saying is that we don't only have to look at my changes. If others have, additional points, please raise them. So in investigations, this is actually what we were just discussing, and I added this bullet. This is quoted directly from the statute. Take all possible actions, etc. So I don't think there should be an issue with this since it comes straight from the statutory language, but I just wanted to make clear that that was part of the expectations of the job, really simply so that down the road nobody's kind of questioning whether there's applicants or finalists who are lawyers or who may be more likely to actually take these steps. It is part of the remit.
Yeah, no, I'll just comment. I think that's the right action to take to preemptively include that because we don't know the full reason of why the governor didn't choose our first pick. But one concern was I think that he was a aggressive, or I don't know what the right lawyerly word is, a litigant.
Litigious, yeah.
I didn't say litigious. I just say like he was like to the full extent of the law, an appropriately aggressive litigant, and that alone should not have been a disqualification. So I think putting that in the job description is appropriate, especially given it's in the statute.
Right. Okay.
All right, so we're moving on.
Yeah. So then I just added this preferred. Basically, I think all of us are in agreement that we just want more. We just want all the applications, and so I at least would rather see applications from people, even if they don't have preferred requirements, than not to see those applications.
I believe one of the preferred or mandated required experience should be having worked with the population in the first place. Because one of the concerns I have is if someone brings in, because this was something that was, as I'm listening and I, remember the two people, they were speaking for the interim position. One of the people had no experience with incarcerated people. They worked in a completely different department with over 20 some odd years of experience, not working with incarcerated adults. I have an issue with that because dealing with kids, dealing with another, like, this is a unique population. And if you have no work experience, nothing dealing with them, like, how are you going to be able to advocate for them? You know, an advocate is an advocate. I don't disagree with that. However, this is a specific vulnerable population that needs someone with the exposure and experience behind them. I think that's a must. That should not even be something that shouldn't even be on this list. Or should be on this list, like, without a doubt.
I mean, I agree that it's like probably the most important qualification. I was simply thinking, you know,
It is listed for, I mean, I think what the first one is on that, sorry, Bree, scroll up. So preferred preference and qualification, demonstrated interest and experience in advocating for the rights and well-being of incarcerated persons, is the first one. I don't know, Marisol, is your concern that you would want that to be not in the preferred section, to be
Yeah.
like,
That's a must. That's not even something that we're arguing or we're even that's almost as a must as if they, you know, he graduated high school. Okay, like, really, that's, you know, we're not
So,
talking a degree here,
I
but
mean, I guess like the only thing I'd say is like we're not even sure that graduating high school is a must, right? You know, and I agree that I think all of us would think of, you know, the demonstrated interest and experience in advocating for the rights of incarcerated persons is an essential qualification for the job. You know, if we separate that, and we could, are there other things that we should separate as required experience, or is it just you know, enough to say all of these are preferred qualifications and we can trust ourselves to, you know, weigh and evaluate them, right? The only reason I had put preferred there is to make clear that it's basically to say we want all applications, and you know, we don't want to exclude anyone from submitting an application, even if we say, you know, collectively, oh, we really do think you need a bachelor's, or we really do think you need, you know, computer experience, or whatever the other qualifications are. If we don't make that, if we make clear that they're not required, at least we're not precluding those people from applying.
However, I disagree. I think you shouldn't be applying for this job if you've never worked or do not have the interest of those who are incarcerated. That should be a part of your bread and butter. If you don't have that experience, whether as an advocate or work experience, then you shouldn't be applying for this job in the first place. That's what this whole position is. And you have to have that experience.
Marisol, I think the rejoinder to that is just like, obviously it's not like the process goes through us, right? Like I mean, I agree with you, but I don't want to preclude there being like a sort of random, not random person, but someone who like for whatever reason doesn't hit that and then actually might be a good fit. And because especially as everything goes through us, like
right, or who says, do I have a demonstrated interest? You know, like that's kind of a vague, you know, what constitutes a demonstrated interest and experience. You know, I wouldn't be opposed to making that first bullet a requirement, but I don't think it's necessary, because it's been said, like, if somebody doesn't have, in our view, that interest, we can cut them out. You know, nobody's necessarily going forward. And my concern primarily is getting more and more applications and not excluding anyone from, you know, thinking they're permitted to apply, right? I want people to apply even if they don't meet all of these qualifications, and it will be up to us to, you know, determine whether they're actually worthy of going forward to an interview.
I personally still stand behind the need for it to be specifically stated. However, again, I'm not the only person on this committee, but I want it to be heard and said that I feel that one of our glitches, and one of the things that has some of the candidates that we have had, and even some of the candidates that are being paraded right now, we have seen where what it looks like when they say their interest or their experience. And I think it has to be someone who has a clearly demonstrated track record with working with this population successfully.
So one thing that we could do is really just delete that preferred, the reason I had preferred there is really to make clear that you don't need the bachelor's degree, even though in that last bullet. So again, I think that, to me, it should have been clear that you could apply even if you didn't have the bachelor's degree, if you did have that professional experience. But if we delete that bullet entirely, then we could leave everything else as just experience and qualifications. We don't actually say required or preferred. And then we're basically in the same position as we had been previously, but with this separate change of eliminating the bullet suggesting that a bachelor's degree would be preferred.
I'll just chime in. Tag, I think I'm on your side here because I think the two problems. I mean, first with the first pass, everyone who got interviewed and all the finalists would have met that criteria. Whatever you think of them, they would have met that criteria. So I'm not actually that worried about us after we interview people and get through the process of like having the sort of people who meet some of what we believe, even if we don't put in the words. I do think the problem with the last time that we heard from people who are here today that like some people said that they thought about doing it, but they thought they couldn't. And that's what we want to avoid as much as possible. And I think that's where putting preferred is helpful here. And finally, I'll just say like this is not like our rubric. This is a guidance, but this is not our rubric for how it's not like a scoring sheet that we say like, do they check. It's still like an interview process that we go through to sort of get through to the final group. It doesn't lock us into like they have to have excellent written and verbal communication skills or whatever bullet point is here.
Yeah, the only actual requirement was basically the Connecticut residency. I don't recall even the last time ever striking someone, from the applicant list based on the failure to have any of these qualifications. Daryl, before we move on, Daryl, let's hear what you want to say.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about as I'm listening to this, and forgive my technical, I may be in and out. So Bree, if I disappear, look for me in somewhere, and I appreciate you. So I was just thinking, like, a lot of times, how we word things excludes people too. Like, when the process, I had people contact me and said, well, I didn't think I qualified because the way something was worded. So, I mean, and I'm hoping a high school diploma is something that is required because on the same hand, like I respect to those people who don't have one, but there is a requirement for, we definitely want a certain level of expertise when coming through the doors, and from an advocacy perspective, there is a certain amount of, communication, whether it be or whatever the case may be. But I would hope that a high school diploma, I hope we're joking about that part. But just being mindful when we're using the language, we don't want to exclude. Some people don't apply because they think that the way we worded something was like you have to work. Like there may be people who work with this population in different, they do this work. Maybe they work with just homeless people and people who are housing challenged individuals, right? And if you know the data, many of our people are challenged with housing, for whatever the reason. I just want to make sure that, we're this round, because we get another swing at the bat, we make sure that we get everybody, because a lot of impacted people who I know in the communities probably would have been a good fit for this role, but didn't apply because of the way certain things were worded and how it was framed. So they just felt like they didn't qualify, so they didn't apply. So we ended up getting a really good batch of people who work in the system as corrections officers and so on and so forth, which is not, we'll take that if you're the right fit. But for whatever reason, a lot of people more on the other side of the table applied and more impacted people didn't, because they didn't feel like the way the description felt, it wasn't for them. So I just want to make sure that we're mindful of that, because we would like everybody to come and apply for it. It's a good job, and it's an important job. And, so the fact that we get another swing at the bat, we should just do it correctly. And I just wanted to chime in if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. I mean, that is definitely reason for the proposed changes here. I mean, there's the specific elimination of the bachelor's degree. But then I just thought by putting preferred there, it would make clear that, none of this is actually required, even if individually we think, it really basically is. Like, obviously the first bullet is pretty much a requirement unless you can really show some sort of parallel experience. But yeah, that's the reason. Kaisha, I see your hand raised as well.
Yes. So I agree with a little bit of everything that everybody's saying. I do think that we have to be careful. Wording and language is people read into it, and can interpret things in a certain way. I I vote to remove preferred because, if somebody reads that, they're going to get turned off maybe. And I do agree with removing the bachelor's degree line because that probably thinking about the population and who we may want to apply, that's intimidating a little bit. So I like the rewording of it on the next line. But so that's what I would say is that I agree that we have to be careful with the word, but we don't want to get too stuck in finding the right words. Just try to keep it simple and open enough for people to want to apply. The second thing I wanted to say was, um, people have access to ask us questions if they have questions. And I think maybe, I don't know if that's anywhere on the job description.
I do think it's at the end, yeah,
Okay, because
encouraging
I
folks
think
to,
that needs to be highlighted so people
yeah.
can actually reach out if they have specific questions.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that could be highlighted. Now, again, our job description is not exactly how it looks on like the whatever jobs.gov or wherever this actually is posted, but we can, when we submit it to those folks, ask to highlight it. So yeah, you see there the last bullet with the link at the end. Interested parties are encouraged to contact any member. We can ask for that to be, more directly highlighted or maybe put at the top. So on the point about required or preferred, and sorry for you to make you keep moving around, I think it's fine to delete that preferred that was added, except that if you scroll down to the next page, here we previously had, though not required, preference, I think it says preference will be given to. And then these are kind of like, bonus qualifications. So if we don't have, if we eliminate preferred up above, there's some risk that it will seem as though those are required, and then these 3 bullets are the preferred. Do you follow me? So, that's also part of why I added preferred up there as well, so that it didn't suggest that all of those things were required qualifications.
Yeah, Tag, I agree with, I mean, we can put up for a vote, but I agree with the preferred and then sort of the sequence. I like it, but
Yeah, and just again, to be clear, like by saying preferred, it just gives us more discretion, right? So like Marisol, like I really do think all of us agree that first bullet is totally required and nobody's going to, pass the initial review threshold without satisfying it. But we don't accomplish much by expressly stating it's required, right? Rather than just ourselves knowing that it's required. And it's a little bit easier administratively to just list all of these as preferred qualifications. And that was the whole purpose of the revision, was to make clear that there's not specific requirements that preclude people or deter people from applying, but instead these are all kind of preferred qualifications. but yeah, I don't know if we need to vote, but you know, Marcel, maybe you can let us know what you think, if we should kind of.
I think the only reason I make such I'm a stickler about this is because how in the past we've had this past process where if you don't say something outright, right, and you're not very clear about it, we've had these nonsensical questions, or we've had applicants. Granted, I understand that, hey, let's open the door of the floodgates and we get all these applications, but we've had so many people apply, or people inundate the the administrative staff or the staff in general over questions on salary and other things. And I know it seems like I'm making this a sticking point, but like the fact that one of the applicants for the interim, or one of the candidates, is someone who had no carceral experience at all, is what's concerning to me. So I'll just leave it at that. If you guys feel as a group that works, I'm just concerned with it being, hey, that's a given, and it's not. So I'm sitting there, but that doesn't mean that we can't move on and leave it at that. I'm just voicing my concern because of our past experience last time.
I don't know if I follow all of that based on the last round, but I do think it is a given, but it's not that we're depending on it to be a given, because again, we are the screening entity here, right? So we are fully capable of dinging or rejecting anyone who doesn't have that qualification. And I wouldn't mind, although I thought Daryl made a good point that it is possible that you could have experience in a similar context, even if it's not specifically with incarcerated persons. But even aside from that, like I don't mind that being a requirement. It just kind of complicates things, because then it's like, all right, if that's a requirement, what else should be a requirement, and as opposed to preferred. And I just think it's a little simpler to list them all as preferred qualifications, knowing that we're all capable of rejecting anyone who doesn't have one of these preferred qualifications, including in particular that first one. Daryl, sorry, I see another hand.
I'm trying to navigate. No, I was just gonna say that I'll just in full transparency, I really like the preferred thing because I've applied for jobs when it said preferred, because I usually have that preferred particular whatever that qualification is, I usually fit that scope. But in respect to, like, number one, Ben being on vacation, and I don't want us to take up too much time so he could get back to his people. I agree that the way we look at it, we are, at the end of the day, we are the end all be all who actually gets across the finish line. So I don't think we should spend so much time on this particular thing, because it's not a real, unless for Microsoft, it's a real sticking point. But I don't feel like that was the pebble that was tripping people up or bringing them through the door. I just feel like that, this is something that, we're definitely going to be looking at everybody and looking at the things that really stick out, like that. Some of the things that may get somebody into the preferred thing may get them disqualified as well, like in the same voice, right? Oh, because you thought this, but that's not what we're looking for. So, and then I think we were pretty clear with that the last time when we did the interviews. I think we were pretty clear, like, how did this person think that this was a good fit for them?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, as a group, we're pretty qualified, to be able to weed those people out. I like the preferred because, like I said, I've seen it and it's worked for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody else. But then let's circle back to the fact that we are the quote unquote second to the final say of who actually gets an interview. So I'm with whatever let's just try to keep the train moving. Mm-hmm. And those of you that know that I'm a foodie, my food just arrived, so I may be off camera in a minute.
Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's just we want more candidates rather than less. We're able, if as a result of having preferred, we have twice as many candidates, and most of them don't satisfy what we view as the requirements of the job, we're able to not advance those people, right? But maybe one or two will have applied who would be qualified and might have been deterred if they saw that as required. So, I think, Marcel, if you're willing to kind of go along.
Move along. Well, yeah,
it's just,
we don't have to be here forever.
we, as Daryl said, yeah, we possess the ability to kind of screen out those who don't have that qualification. Okay, great. But we will, I think everybody agreed, we'll just kind of eliminate that last bullet point. And, although I think it's a useful qualification to have experience in these areas, that is covered in the later series of bullets about the not required preference will be given to. So I think we can delete that bullet point without losing much. And then I think everything else is just dates and stuff. I don't know. Bree, you can scroll down just to confirm that, but I don't think there's substantive changes beyond that. Although we can't talk about this. So, how long do you think we want to have the application period open for? It's, I think we can have this posted by the end of this month. So, conceivably you could have it open only till September 1st. I feel like in our last round, we did end up extending the application period because we didn't have a sufficient number. So I suggested to September 15th, but we could either do September 1st or September 30th if others have strong views in that respect. And then we commence all the interviews immediately thereafter.
Is there a possibility to start reviewing them at, cut it off at September 15th, but start reviewing September 1st?
Yeah. I mean, we can review. I don't know that we need to make a specific, provision or point about this in this job description, but we can certainly do a rolling review. And as I noted, we have already received 2 applications that everybody can look at.
1, not 2.
Oh, so I couldn't tell what Amos. one and then 1. Yeah.
1 was questions. The other one was a resume.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, so certainly we can do that. We can just review on a rolling basis. Bree could, or whoever it is who's receiving them can forward to us as they come in. But we just need a firm cutoff date that folks.
I think September 15th is ideal. I think
okay.
Pushing this out.
Any objection to the 15th from anyone else? All right, so we'll leave that.
But just
January 2025 or earlier is deliberately vague. Obviously, we'd love it earlier.
Sorry, Tag, I had a quick question. So if we were able to I know it took a while to get it posted last time, but you feel confident we could post it by the end of July, by August 1st?
I think we can, because we already went through this.
Okay. I mean, a month and a half seems still, even ideally, feels like a pretty short time. I mean, I appreciate we want to start the process. I don't know, I'm worried about we're getting enough applications by September 15th.
So would you suggest September 30th or October?
Maybe the end of, I mean, 2 months feels, I mean, we'll see how it plays. I do appreciate that, like, I don't know if we're working backwards from like the beginning of the legislative session for next, come 2025, and like making sure that we like early in that session have a sort of maybe a finalist, so that the Judiciary Committee will be sort of able, or if not the Judiciary Committee, the Appointments Committee will be sitting and be able to act on it. So that feels like we have to work back from there. It just feels tight. But so I would favor September 30th.
I don't have a problem with that, and we did have to extend it last time. We could, for example, say, oh yeah, it says encouraged anyway.
Fair enough.
Well-
I'm fine to leave it to the 15th. I just am aware that it feels.
Ben's point, there may be merit to Ben's point because of the fact that, we're already almost at the end of July and they still have not come up with an interim person as yet. So even as we're doing this, that they're going to appoint someone, and then there's going to be that weird aspect of that transition. So I think maybe pushing it out till the 30th, maybe, I think maybe it is the best way to go, because there is going to be some crossover somewhere between this
Yeah,
interim.
I think if there's an interim in place, then I don't feel as rushed about
Yeah.
getting the permanent in place. But I don't.
Unfortunately, that's not something that we should even, I think moving forward and just
That's what I'm thinking is we should be on our own schedule. Although I agree with Ben, like I do think 2 months is kind of a good period. So
Especially
I
in
think we can-
August. I mean, especially in the middle of this. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a risk
summertime.
they're going to miss some people. Yeah.
So why don't we could put it I'm a little, I didn't pick up on this before, but it says like encouraged to, which is kind of vague.
Yes,
But by September 30th.
Yeah, done.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just check what that's a weekday or not. September 30th is a Monday. Yeah, so that seems fine. Okay. And again, we'll have meetings before September 30th. So if for some reason, like the last time, we feel as though we need to extend the period, we could do that. But okay, good. Okay, I think that's it.
Is that the last bit of it?
That was the last change anyway. Again, again, these were just my edits based on our past discussion. If there's, if folks have suggestions or proposed changes, we could discuss them now, but otherwise, that's I think what we would send over to have posted. So I guess I would entertain a motion to adopt that, or Ben, do you want to say something?
Just before we discuss, I do feel like the tension is like trying to not drag our feet, which is hard with an all volunteer committee and sort of moving this forward. But with also just acknowledging that I think, as we brought up, like not being totally happy with how the process worked out last time. So trying to, but we can't what does the perfect process look like, and acknowledging that the perfect can't be the enemy of like good enough. I don't know why I don't have any recommendations with that other than to say I think we should move it forward, but acknowledging there's a chance there's something we're not thinking about.
There certainly is a chance that there's something we're not thinking about. Yeah,
But I think to that point, this is where when we are doing questions, and if there are things that we think about, we still have an ability to ask certain things or to get somewhere. So I think there is a little bit of wiggle room, or if people get off this call and think of something, I think we can make a last minute change. But I think these are the majors. I think the time frame was important, and I think getting certain languages done. The rest of it, I think we can work with after the fact.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, I think although we did get, a few dozen applications last time, I think the main thing that we need to focus on is publicizing this and trying to actively recruit potential applicants. And that is something that's going to be happening kind of after the actual posting is made. So I'd just like to get that part rolling. Yeah.
I'd move to, I'm gonna be bold here to make a move that we accept the changes to the job application because we have a quorum, and to move forward with posting the job.
Great. I
second. I'm gonna take Marisol as a second. I see the nodding. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Any opposed? I think we have unanimous consent on that. So we'll adopt this as our job description and forward it for the posting, recognizing that there could be potential tweaks, or we could have a sort of Q&A sort of thing like we did previously to address any concerns, and of course emphasizing that we all need to do a lot of outreach to try to get applications in. I think that's the main, gotta find the, okay. Yeah, so that's the application process. Again, unfortunately, we didn't have much in terms of an update on the interim buds. We can open, any other discussion before we open to public comment? So we can open it up. Bree, if you're able to do that.
Do we need to have a quorum I would like to step off is what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah, no.
I'm gonna apologize.
So we can, here's what I would do. I don't know if we need a quorum to adjourn, but that's the only thing that we have left to vote on. So we can adjourn our meeting, but still hear from, what do you shake? Bree, are you telling me no, or?
You don't need a quorum to adjourn.
Okay, so yeah, Ben, you can jump off.
I apologize. Thank you for the public for joining, but I apologize. I have to step off to put my daughter to bed.
Thanks, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Okay, so I see Barbara. I don't know if there's others joining, but you're welcome to speak up, Barbara, if you have comments.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I guess first I have to say, reiterate again, if you find that people are not truly committed to this work, can't do it because of other work that they have to do, whatever is keeping us from having to sit and wait for 30 minutes just for a meeting to get started that was supposed to start at 7, because that can be very frustrating. So we can just have a conversation with the people who have signed up and see if they're still in a place where they can do this work. And if they can't, graciously step down so that someone else that's truly committed to this will be here. And I say that because I have a lot going on in my life, but I know when advisory meetings coming, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be here at 7 o'clock. And so I think it's frustrating to sit here and wait for people to come here if they have other, and I won't prolong because we've said this time and time again, but it does get a little frustrating doing that. I was listening to a lot of what was said. First of all, as far as the application process, it's not like this job is brand new, nobody knows about it, so we have to do a lot of advertising. A lot of people already know about this from the last time. I know you've adopted it, but I just think waiting till September 30th to do applications with the thought of, are we going to get to September 30th and then say, oh, we need to extend it again like we did last time? And I just want to make sure that we're ready with a finalist by the next session, that we're not still, working on the process, that the process has actually happened. I like to think about preferred. The one thing that I had a question about was where part of the requirements are you have prior experience in Connecticut state government, an executive, a legislative, or judicial branches. And I'm wondering, how does that play into something that's great for this position, this independent position?
Thank you. I think that last to the last question, that's one of the sort of pluses. At this point, I don't think we'd probably change that. But it would be in terms of what we're posting for the public. If someone had that experience, and that doesn't mean having served in office, like having been in the legislature or been in the judiciary or executive, but simply having had experience kind of negotiating those areas, that would be regarded as a plus. But the main point we're trying to get across through the revisions and through the discussion we just had is that, you know, there's not really any hard and fast requirements. In other words, anyone who feels, you know, called to apply for this and feels like they could serve this role should apply for it without feeling as though they haven't satisfied a prerequisite.
Well, why is that preferred? That's what I'm trying to understand. And something that's actually independent of state government, I'm wondering why we would say that those are anything that would be preferred. And a lot of people will look at that and think that, oh, well, I work for the judicial, I'm in legislative, so that qualifies me. I'm just not understanding why that's a qualification. That's all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think, you know, that's a bullet from the prior application, so not one that we've just discussed, but if, you know, if I'm thinking back to it, I think it's principally about, you know, being able to navigate government, right? Which probably is an important part of this job, although not one that, you know, others couldn't rise to be able to do. But having that experience might be useful. But again, it's not a requirement.
I hear you, and like you said, at this point, you're not going to change anything. So I just
No, but I appreciate
bringing it
the point there and your other points as always, Barb. Bree, were there any others who wanted to speak? I see a gentleman on his iPhone. I don't know if
I thought Cindy, maybe she's not.
Cindy was on for a while. She hung on for a bit and then jumped off. I don't know if the person labeled iPhones wants to unmute and speak.
you gotta be careful because it looks like he's in motion. Hello, sir. Did you want to say something?
Oh, you're speaking with me.
Well, although we don't want to distract you from driving.
No, I just tapped in. I was listening. I am this is the ombudsman position that we were talking about, correct?
Right.
And that was, can you just give me a brief overhaul of just some of what you was explaining in regards to what was the things that need to be addressed, or the things that you know, the position will require, just briefly.
Sure.
I think I have an idea already. I just wanted to, because I just tapped in, I just wanted to get a quick overhaul.
Sure. As you might know, there was a previous round where we, the Correction Advisory Committee, had posted a position and sought applications to be the correction ombuds, and went through this process, submitted names to the governor, and then we had to start over. So in starting over, we're trying to learn a little bit from our past experience. And so what we were discussing earlier was a few kind of tweaks or changes to the job description that hopefully will yield more applications. We had a discussion in a prior meeting that there may have been folks, particularly folks who had themselves been incarcerated and didn't have a bachelor's degree, who may have felt deterred from applying previously. So we're trying, that's why, I don't know if you heard any of that, but we're trying to make sure that these sort of job qualifications are more preferred than required.
Right. No, I heard, and yeah, that was pretty much what I thought. So I had even thought about that position, given the fact that I was previously incarcerated. And while I was in there, I got my paralegal degree, and I went to college and got my well, I have a certification in business administration. I'm a few credits away from my associates. But I thought about it when this was shared with me. I thought about it because I also understand the lack of legal assistance that inmates receive while incarcerated. In fact, I just got off the phone with somebody that's incarcerated that was talking about this exact thing. I told him I'll be on the phone tonight. But the lack of assistance and the fact that most of the prisons, at least in the state of Connecticut, have now got rid of the law library. So not only can you not get the assistance that you need, but you don't even have a law library to do it for yourself. Unless you're in like one of the two, I believe, facilities. I believe McDougal may still have it. I'm not sure. And there's one more I think that may still have it. But other than that, Osborne. Other than that, there is no official way for somebody to effectively fight their case, or fight any case for that matter, whether it be internal, something going on within DOC, or their criminal conviction. So because I was in there and I went through that, what I had to do was go buy all the law books I could buy. And I had to refer to those accordingly. But there was never any liaison. You had to depend on DOC to do everything. So there's something that I thought was a loophole in the law that DOC was doing that I didn't agree with. And what it is when you have legal documents, that's privileged communication. But because they have no libraries, can everybody still hear me? Because my screen is out.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can hear you.
So because there's no law libraries, and they have this ILAP, I think they call it, and it's really not helpful to the inmates at all. I mean, I bear witness that. And because of that, you have these privileged documents that you're working on, this legal work, and you have to actually basically infringe upon your own constitutional rights to let that legal information be handled and seen by people who have nothing to do with it, because you have to give it to the counselors for them to take care of, make the copies, and send it off if you want to send it off. If you want to e-file it, you have to give it to them. So it's kind of where your information is privileged, it's not so privileged no more. Now they're going to tell you all the time, we don't look at it, we don't read it. Yeah, okay, that's cool. I got to take your word for it because I have no other choice. I always thought that was a problem. And so that's just one of the issues. But that being said, I think that if there is a stipulation in the application, or that if you were formerly incarcerated, then you can't take the position, then yeah, that would rule out that would rule me out, but it'll rule some others out, I guess, as well. But if there is not that, then that opens the door. And I think who better than to get a position like that than somebody that lived it, that could actually address the issues that they lived,
Right.
and understand what the people on the other side are going through when they share it.
Sir, the job specifically says preference is given for people who were formerly incarcerated.
Oh, it says what was given?
Or preference is given for people who were formerly incarcerated.
Yeah, there's definitely no exclusion, and if you have an interest in this, I hope you will apply, and if you know others who might have an interest, I hope you'll encourage them to apply. Beyond that, what you were just describing is very helpful to us in our sort of ongoing role of advising the ombuds. We don't have an ombuds yet, but when we do, we're very interested in hearing the sorts of sort of insights that you've just shared with us in terms of where we need reform. Right? You were getting at access to legal materials and those sorts of things. That is very useful for us. And so I hope you'll attend future meetings of the advisory committee. Unfortunately, right now we're still stuck on just trying to get an ombuds in place. But to your point, as Marisol just said, there is absolutely no preclusion for formerly incarcerated people to apply, and in fact, it is a sort of a plus factor for formerly incarcerated people or those who are otherwise impacted, who had loved ones incarcerated. That's exactly what we're looking for, is that sort of experience. So please consider applying and encourage others in that who
Oh, I
shared this
can.
experience to do so.
So what are you looking for, a certain number of ombudsmen that could help, because I'm sure it'll be an overload for maybe
Yeah, there will be one ombud. So our role here is to screen and recommend to the governor 3 to 5 candidates to be the ombuds. There will be one ombuds. That person, though, will hire other individuals, including an associate ombuds. So there will be other people in the office, but there's just one who is appointed. And that's what we're talking about here in terms of the job description.
Got it. Okay, I mean, that's definitely sounds good to me, since now I have that clarification. But I will say I am very, very, very active in criminal justice reform. I attend certain meetings. I actually have civil litigation pending in federal court now based on civil injustices that happen with myself. So I'm very knowledgeable in that sense. And so I don't, obviously I don't do it just to, I mean, it has to be a serious situation. So I guess it's a passion of mine.
Okay.
And so I don't have anything. I guess the next question will be, how do you apply?
So you'll see if we should have something posted on there's like a jobs.gov website.
Okay.
We're hoping to have that posted by the end of the week, and we're each of us hoping to widely disseminate this. So please keep an eye out. Obviously, you found out about this meeting. So our own website, the Correction Advisory Committee that you might have seen where this meeting was posted, that will also have the job posting.
Okay. All right.
So you can, Google Correction Ombuds Connecticut, and I think you'll be able to find the information you need, but it will be likely next week or so before it's formally posted.
Attack, can I just?
Yeah, hop in there.
Hey, good brother. We hope that you definitely join us again. My name is Darryl McGraw, number 183422. Spent 10 years of my life in and out of the correctional system. We appreciate you going and bringing that information to us. We hope that you join again. Number one, we want you to come back. The next time you come back stationary, so you ain't, in the car moving like that.
I'll be ripping and running, man. But I got.
We need you to slow it down a little bit so you be around for across the finish line. We really appreciate it, but definitely. And the other thing is that you can always reach out to anybody on the committee if you had any questions on the way to apply for this position. So feel free to look any of us up, and or you can reach out to the amazing Bree, and she'll make sure you get the information to the team, and then we'll respond to you accordingly. So this is heavy work. This is a big lift, and we encourage you and any other people who work with our people on the other side of the fence to keep coming and join, because this is a movement.
Yes, sir. I appreciate what you guys are doing. When I was inside, I promise you, when I first went in, I believe they did have an ombudsman. This was, I want to say, like 09, 08. They had, and but I never got a chance to. I think he was phasing out, and I never got a chance to use it. But I always wondered why we didn't have that extra outside agency that could operate on the outskirts of DOC, that could see our vision and kind of bring it to the forefront, without having to go through the guys of the warden or the deputy warden, or they're all kind of one-sided in most cases. So when you got the ombudsman, it kind of balances it out. So I always thought it was a need for that. So I'm happy to hear that whether it's me or not me, I'm still happy to hear that it's even being talked about again and brought back up.
Well, that is the idea, is that this would be an independent office. The prior ombuds was
Right.
within DOC.
Right.
And thanks to Ms. Farrer, you may see here, and others, the legislation was enacted to create an independent ombuds, and that's what we're working on filling now.
Got it.
We'd certainly welcome an application from you or others, and if not, we hope you'll continue to join our meetings so that we're we have a sense of the sorts of needs and focuses that the ombuds should be looking at.
Yes, sir.
Todd, question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When people are filling out their applications, will the job description be there for them to see what they're applying to do? Okay.
Yes.
And I think that's important. People may not know what the ombudsman job is really entailing. A lot of skills and expectations, and people need to know that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it'll be available, and we can also make the statutory description available if that's helpful. But yeah, all of that would go in. Now, the thing that I was trying to get across before is that our description gets sort of translated into the format that the state puts out for their, HR. So it'll be slightly different than just in terms of formatting than what we just saw, but all of the, preferred qualifications, et cetera, would be listed there. And we can also link to the specific, statutory description of the job, but yes.
Right.
And I'm hoping at the end of the day that this will be exactly what I entailed it to be. It will be independent of Department of Corrections, where the other person was working for Department of Corrections. This is going to be someone who is very independent of that.
That's the idea for sure. Yeah, I mean that's the main. Well, one of the main features.
Primary to me.
Yeah.
Very, very needed. Very needed. Like, I mean, that sounds excellent to me, because being in there for so long and understanding the politics of DOC, it's very needed. I mean, I personally, just briefly of experience I went through, I had I'm still in court for my case at this moment. Right now, I'm in the appellate court, but at the time, because of what happened in my case, I put a federal lawsuit in while I was incarcerated on the officials in my case. And I went through so much in the prisons, from them taking my legal work. I had like 10 boxes of legal work, from them taking it, moving me and dumping everything into trash bags, mixing up all the papers. After I told them multiple times, please keep this stuff separated, I'm fighting cases. Nope, dumped it all in the bags. And then from me mailing out, I was in McDougal, and I mailed out, I had a deadline to reach. I mailed out my legal work to the court. But again, you have to depend on DOC to do it for you. So when I mailed it out, I called the court and they said, you'll be late tomorrow. It hasn't got here yet. This was like 3 weeks after I mailed it. So I raised all kind of hell. And turns out I found out my stuff was still in the AP room. They were holding it at the jail. They didn't never mail it. So I put an injunction in on Warden Chapdelaine at the time, and she came to my cell and said she was sorry, and they held it because of whatever reason, I forget at the moment. But she said if she was to call the court and make sure that it got there on time, would I lift the injunction? And I did. She did it, so I did it. I'm just making the point that they play these games with people sometimes, and if you're not on point, you won't see it, and it'll mess up your whole case. As an ombudsman, or having somebody as an ombudsman, you can address these issues and know that the inmate is not lying to you when they're saying it, because you lived it. Or I'm talking about myself right now. Like, I know that sometimes a person on the outside of DOC could hear something that an inmate says and say, man, I don't know. That sounds a little crazy. They wouldn't do nothing like that. Yeah, they would. And I guess the ones that really live through this know that these games get played, especially when it's something that implicates other people within that entity. So yes, independence, facts. It has to be independent. Strong point there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that we appreciate that.
Yep.
Bree, do we have any other comments? Okay, well, thank you both for sharing with us. Marisol, did you want
Actually,
in?
no, it's actually a question for Barbara, because if
Go ahead.
anybody known, do you know anything in terms of any next steps for the interim? Have you heard anything?
I
Because
haven't
you-
heard anything yet. The person told me that they were going through a background check, and that could take a little over a week, so I'm waiting any day. They said as soon as they hear, that'll be the first.
Two
one.
people? Is it still the two people?
No,
Is it
they gotten down to a finalist.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that update. I didn't have any news, so that's useful. Okay, so we can adjourn, and the next steps we'll forward this revised description to be posted, and then we'll look forward to receiving applications. Okay, thank you all for joining us. I think we've already voted to adjourn. Thank you very much, Bree, for shepherding us through tonight, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye. Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Hey, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.